Don't act like my husband. You're just my ATM. Did I ever say I loved you?
Mary was defiant.
You're unemployed and have no income now. I have no use for a pooey old man. Just disappear quickly.
Mary's harsh words cut me deeply. All these years, I worked to provide a stable life for Mary and Ashley, and this is what I get as soon as I retire. What was all my effort for? The job was never all fun. More often, it was a daily torment. Yet, I didn't run away, and I endured for the sake of Mary and Ashley. And now, after finally reaching the end, this is how it turns out. I can forgive them for this. Just you wait and see. My name is James, and I'm 65 years old. I just retired from the insurance company where I worked for 47 years since graduating from high school. Considering my age, I retired to start the second chapter of my life, but I believe I worked diligently for many years at this company. When I was still working, I moved a lot for my work and lived away from home. Because of that, even after getting married, I hardly ever lived with my family. I met my wife, Mary, through a mutual acquaintance. At that time, Mary was divorced and had a young daughter, Ashley, with her. Her ex-husband had cheated on her shortly after Ashley was born and left Mary and Ashley behind. Mary seemed to be struggling with life, and I felt pity for her. Initially, I just wanted to help her somehow, but I found myself increasingly drawn to her every time we met. The young Ashley quickly grew fond of me, which led us to get married soon after. In the early days of our marriage, I often felt frustrated because I couldn't return home often. About 3 years later, it became clear why Mary's ex-husband had abandoned her. Mary turned out to be quite the spendthrift. I was able to return home from my assignment a few times a month, but each time I came back, there were new things in the house. I confronted Mary about it.
Then hurry up and get promoted so you can make more money.
But Mary didn't seem the least bit remorseful. I was making a decent salary, but since I was living a double life between my assignment location and home, it wasn't enough for any luxury. I had suggested to Mary several times that we could try to save money, but she would snap back at me, and it would turn into a fight, so eventually I stopped mentioning it. As we continued this lifestyle, Ashley grew up. She used to be happy every time I came home when she was younger, but as she entered middle school, she started finding me annoying. It was a shock at the time, but I chalked it up to her being in her rebellious phase. However, it turned out that Ashley finding me annoying wasn't just because of her teenage rebellion. Even now, at 29, she still finds me annoying. In the beginning of our marriage, I couldn't wait to get home, but as time passed, it gradually became harder to return. Even when I come home, it feels like there's no place for me anymore. I'm home. There's no one to greet me when I return. When I enter the room, Mary and Ashley seem engrossed in the TV. There's no sign that anyone has prepared dinner for me. What's for dinner?
Just buy some deli food at the supermarket.
Mary answered, sounding annoyed. Are you serious? I wanted to retort, but knowing it would only lead to a fight, I silently decided to head to the supermarket. When did things become like this? As I was eating my deli food at home, Ashley suddenly shouted,
Just thinking about old man being in this house irritates me.
I wonder if I did something. I'm just eating the deli food I bought. I was taken aback by Ashley's sudden outburst.
Just hang in there a little longer since he'll be leaving soon.
Mary said without scolding Ashley. That was a harsh way to be talked about.
And you stink.
I've always treated Ashley like my own daughter. It really hurts to be spoken to like this.
He's 15 years older than me, so it can't be helped.
Mary said, laughing. I think that was a bit much to say, but feeling completely out of place at home, I couldn't say anything. I felt pathetic, but somewhere in my heart, I thought it was my fault. With my job requiring me to live away from home, I only get to be home for a few days a month. Normally, I'm hardly ever at home, so a life without me must be normal for them.
You should be grateful just to have a wife 15 years younger and beautiful.
Mary often brings up our age difference, and my looks like it's her catchphrase. Indeed, I am 15 years older than Mary. Even if she talks down to me because of it, there's nothing I can do. Every time Mary says that, I feel frustrated.
Just being with you in public makes me feel embarrassed, so don't come near me outside.
Normally, I work at an insurance company and wear a suit to work. I don't think I dress embarrassingly, and I do pay attention to my appearance. However, Mary and Ashley keep treating me like an old man and making fun of me.
Do you think so too, Mom? It really is disgraceful. He looks like an old man, you know?
Ashley says this, laughing hysterically.
Don't come near me either. If people knew you were my dad, I'd be the one embarrassed.
Influenced by Mary, Ashley also looks down on me. I have tried my best as a husband and as a father. Now that I'm retired, I'll be home every day, and I was hoping to mend our relationship.
Hey, what are you planning to do after retirement?
Well, I haven't decided yet, but at least I'll be able to come home every day. This was like a dream for me. Though married, I had always been assigned to work away from home, so being home all the time was honestly hard to believe.
Every day. That's dreadful.
Mary's words shattered my feelings as they came out of her mouth.
You're not planning to stay home all the time, are you?
That is, I haven't decided yet.
If you stayed home all the time, I'd feel suffocated.
I wonder if my relationship with Mary and Ashley is beyond repair. I've been working for decades. Don't I deserve a little break?
You've got to be kidding. Without work, what use are you?
To Mary, my worth is nothing beyond bringing money home. So, as long as I bring in the money, they don't need me. After all I've done for the family, to be talked to like this.
Pensions alone won't cover it.
It seems a pension life isn't feasible. I had been thinking about what to do after retirement. I thought it might be okay to take it easy for a bit. But Mary acted as if I should start working again immediately.
That's all you're good for.
I was feeling the harsh reality of being treated like an ATM. Before I knew it, I had become just a provider of financial stability to my family, going to work daily. I had hoped for a supportive and sharing relationship with Mary as a spouse and parent, but I realized that would never happen. When they see my face, they ask for money, and other than that, they look down on me and hurl insults, making me feel miserable. Is this really what family is supposed to be like? I began to think seriously. I had hoped to be able to return home daily, but for Mary and Ashley, as long as they had money, they didn't need me. Perhaps it was inevitable since we had lived apart for so long, even though we were married. But I think it's undeniable that their current lifestyle is the result of me consistently bringing my paycheck home. As I'm beginning to think they should thank me, I grew increasingly angry. A few months later, I finally reached my retirement day and packed up my things to come home. As expected, Mary and Ashley seemed displeased.
He really came back.
Ashley muttered under her breath.
Oh my God, this is suffocating.
Mary exclaimed before storming out of the house. It's my house, isn't it? Why can't I be here? I wanted to retort but held myself back. Actually, I had plans to meet someone after this. I thought I might be late for my appointment if I got into an argument with Mary and Ashley right then. Trying to suppress my frustration, I left the house to discuss my post-retirement plans, following Mary in a way. I was a bit curious about where Mary might have gone, but I hurried to my meeting place. After my meeting, as I neared home, I witnessed something unbelievable. I was so shocked that I couldn't move for a while. I can't believe Mary was meeting with another manual. When I got home, I couldn't help but ask Mary, "I just saw you. What's going on?" As if it was too much trouble to explain, Mary answered.
What does it have to do with you?
I thought she would make excuses, but instead, she threw those words at me.
Don't act like my husband. You're just my ATM. Did I ever say I loved you?
Mary was defiant. Were you cheating?
It's not cheating. I'm serious. I love Daniel.
Though I've never truly trusted Mary, hearing her admit it so openly left me stunned and unable to respond.
You're unemployed and have no income now. I have no use for a pooey old man. Just disappear quickly.
Mary's harsh words cut me deeply. All these years, I worked to provide a stable life for Mary and Ashley, and this is what I get as soon as I retire. What was all my effort for? The job was never all fun. More often, it was a daily torment. Yet, I didn't run away, and I endured for the sake of Mary and Ashley. And now, after finally reaching the end, this is how it turns out. I can forgive them for this. Just you wait and see. Then, without a word, Mary handed me the divorce papers.
Sign this quickly.
Hurry up and sign, and leave the money too.
They're no longer my wife or daughter. Let's become strangers quickly. Fine. Here, the divorce papers. I casually signed the divorce papers and handed them to Mary.
Leave your severance pay and savings too. Think of it as severance money.
Are you taking all the severance pay I worked decades for?
You married me 15 years younger than you. Of course, you should.
She's truly a gold digger. Disgusted, I handed Mary the banking card with the severance pay and savings. Then, I packed my things and left the house. Having just returned from a work assignment, my belongings were mostly packed, so it didn't take long to leave the house. A few months later,
This restaurant is really good.
I heard a familiar voice. When I looked in the direction of the voice, it was Mary. It seemed she had come to dine with Daniel. Feeling my gaze, Mary noticed me.
Why are you here?
This place is a property I inherited from my parents, which I renovated into a restaurant a few years ago. After retiring, I had decided to fulfill my dream of running a restaurant. Back when I was on assignment, I frequented a restaurant where one of the employees wanted to go independent. This employee, a beautiful chef named Susan, and since running a restaurant was my dream, I recruited her to join me. However, realistically, I couldn't do much, so I left everything to Susan. I occasionally met with her to check on the business status. Susan was stunningly beautiful, making her quite the talk of the neighborhood. And with Susan's delicious cooking, the restaurant was thriving every day. Now that I was retired and had more time, I decided to start working at the restaurant. Unfortunately, that's when Mary showed up with Daniel.
This isn't a place for a dirty old poor man to be, is it?
Mary said with a smirk. It had been a while since I'd seen her look down on someone like this.
You're an eyesore. Just disappear.
Mary yelled so loudly that Susan, who was in the kitchen, heard her and hurried to the dining hall. It was rare for customers to see Susan, who usually stayed in the kitchen. When Susan appeared, everyone was captivated by her beauty. Of course, Daniel was no exception.
Why are you even here?
What do you mean, why? I was at a loss for words. I hadn't told Mary or Ashley about this place. Rather, I had planned to discuss my post-retirement plans, but that fell through after everything that happened. Now, there didn't seem to be any reason to mention it. Susan, understanding everything from Mary's tone and my demeanor, intervened.
He's the owner here. It's only natural for him to be here.
What, the owner?
Surprised by Susan's words, Mary's voice cracked.
You deceived me.
Mary's face quickly turned angry as she confronted me.
I, a beautiful and young woman, have been with an old man like you for so many years. The little money you gave isn't enough, is it? If this place is yours too, hand it over.
How greedy can she be? As I stood there dumbfounded, Susan chuckled beside me.
You might not want to call yourself young or beautiful so much.
Susan, 5 years younger than Mary, was supposed to be 45 years old. In reality, she looked even younger. Tall, with a great figure. Mary, embarrassed and upset by the comments from Susan, who was known for her beauty, turned red in the face and yelled in anger.
Just because you think you're pretty doesn't mean you can get cocky.
I'm not getting cocky. At least I think I'm younger and prettier than you.
Susan responded calmly. No one could argue with that. Indeed, Daniel was clearly captivated by Susan. Noticing Daniel's behavior, Mary stormed out of the restaurant without finishing her meal, dragging Daniel along. After Mary and Daniel had left, I apologized to Susan. I'm sorry. I've caused you a lot of trouble.
I shouldn't have interfered. I apologize.
Don't apologize. Thanks to you, I feel relieved. Thank you. A few weeks later, I noticed Susan looking gloomy at the restaurant. Is something wrong?
Actually, Daniel has been coming here often since that day, trying to hit on me. He keeps calling me out to go for a drink or date me. It was so persistent that I warned him I'd call the police if he showed up again.
That's tough. I have a good idea. I reassured Susan with those words. A few days later, Daniel indeed came to the restaurant. I was in the restaurant's office and immediately called Mary. "Your boyfriend is cheating on you." Shortly after, Mary arrived at the restaurant and caught Daniel hitting on Susan, which made her explode in anger.
What the heck is this?
Daniel was visibly startled and nervous.
What? Why are you here?
What do you see in her?
Then Daniel defiantly said,
Anyone can see she's younger and prettier than you.
That's no joke. Do you know how much money I've spent on you? Give me back all the money I've spent on you.
It appeared Mary had been financially supporting Daniel substantially. Chances are, the savings and severance pay I had given her were already gone.
Shut up.
Daniel yelled as he stormed out of the restaurant. This likely meant he wouldn't bother Susan again. Moreover, Daniel might never return. At that moment, Mary broke down crying. Although the restaurant was still in preparation and there were no other customers, it was really a nuisance, so I told the crying Mary, "I'm sorry, but can you leave?"
Help me. I've run out of money.
I thought as much. Then, I coldly said to Mary, "You were the one who called me a poor old man and drove me out, saying you had no use for me. What are you saying now? Don't you think you're being too convenient?" Mary began to spout convenient excuses.
Don't say that. I'll support you properly this time.
Susan, who had been silently listening, then spoke up.
There's no need for that. I will support him properly, so we have no use for you anymore. Please leave immediately.
What does she mean? I was stunned by Susan's words. Mary, possibly feeling humiliated, trembled and left the restaurant quietly. A few days later, I reflected on having vowed to get revenge on Mary and Ashley. My indecision had caused trouble for my work and for Susan. I thought it was time to settle things properly. Mary and Ashley must have been living lavishly with the money I left behind. There's no reason for sympathy. Therefore, I decided to sue Mary for compensation for her affair through a lawyer. I also planned to issue a restraining order. Since the house Mary and Ashley were living in was in my name and the mortgage was fully paid off, I decided to sell it. It seems the lawyer had contacted Mary because she called me.
What are you trying to do?
Mary was yelling on the other end of the phone. I calmly replied, "What do you mean? I'm selling the house." Ashley took the phone.
Old man, enough already. How much more do you need to torment my mom?
Ashley was growing more and more like Mary with each passing year. I thought Ashley needed a lesson too. We are strangers now. I've decided it's time to settle things properly. Ashley was furious and screaming.
If we lose the house, what are we supposed to do? Do you only care about yourself?
I calmly tried to explain to Ashley. Listen, it's you who think only of yourselves. Haven't you been happily squandering the money I earned? We're strangers now. Why should I care for you? From now on, you need to live on your own efforts.
How dare you?
She yelled something else, but I just hung up the phone. Just as I was sighing in relief, Mary and Ashley showed up at the restaurant. Not this again. As I was about to go out to the dining hall to meet Mary and Ashley, Susan confronted them first.
Is the old man here? Bring him out.
Ashley shouted at Susan, but Susan remained calm.
There is no old man here, and please don't raise your voice in public. It's disrupting our business.
Susan's calm demeanor seemed to slightly intimidate Ashley.
It looks like you've never earned your own money. You've had quite a pampered life, just like Mary.
Susan suddenly raised her voice after glaring at Mary and Ashley.
Do you think being young and pretty entitles you to money? You can't expect to live easily without effort. Stop relying on others. How long do you plan to live off of exploiting people? Grow up.
I think Susan must have had a really tough time during her early years. Only someone like her could say such things. Mary and Ashley had nothing to say in response.
Do you even have any value worth paying for?
With that, Mary and Ashley left without a word. Susan had thoroughly put them in their place, and they stopped contacting me. I had been planning revenge, but in the end, Susan took care of everything. In a way, that left me feeling quite relieved. I felt bad for causing Susan trouble, so I approached her to express my gratitude. I am sorry for all the trouble I've caused.
Don't worry about it. Besides, I promised I'd support you.
Susan smiled warmly at me. I later heard from the lawyer that Mary and Ashley had moved out and were living in an apartment. This allowed me to sell the house. Mary, who had never worked seriously before, started working part-time at a supermarket to earn living expenses and to pay me alimony. It seems she's being bossed around by much younger coworkers every day. Ashley struggles to hold a job for long and appears to be arguing daily with Mary. After successfully selling the house, I bought a used property. I did this to enjoy my retirement more peacefully, but there was an unexpected twist involved. I am now living with Susan. Once Susan learned I was divorced, she started pursuing me aggressively. Despite a 20-year age difference and my initial resistance, I couldn't keep refusing the advances of a beautiful woman like Susan forever. I was completely won over and decided to be with her. It was much later that I realized what she meant when she said I would support you. Having lived alone for many years due to work assignments, I never imagined having someone as beautiful as Susan taking care of me every day. I am truly happy now.